Into the papers now, see what the headlines are in Nigeria. Really interesting headlines, diverse headlines in Nigeria this morning. I have two journalists in the studio, Charles Ideho, as well as journalist and researcher Cyril Abaku. It's nice to have you both in the studio this morning.
Thank you, mate.
Great Tuesday morning, I must say.
Yes.
Right. Let's begin with the news direct. That's where we start from this morning. Nigeria needs 10 trillion naira infrastructure bond to curb deficit. Fashola is saying this, and this was from his screening yesterday, where he was making a lot of revelation when the senators were quizzing him or drilling him, if you have to put it that way. Nigeria needs 10 trillion naira infrastructure bond to curb deficit. All right, let's move to Daily Trust. State of the nation, voices of reason drowning rapidly. Abdulsalam warns. Gambari, Agwai, Akinyemi, others suggest way out. All right. Elders are coming out to speak now concerning the state of the nation. Let's move now to the blueprint. Abdulsalam Abubakar warns. Tension building up in the land. Warns problems identified, solutions proffered. Break up, not way out. Ex-UN scribe Gambari, Professor Gambari says this. Okay. Break up, not the way out, certainly. All right, the Guardian is where we go next. Excuse me. Senators flame Buhari government over unfinished projects, and has some multiple riders there. Early jobs unrealistic, says Fashola. 10 trillion naira infrastructure loan. Arigboshola blames ignorance, mischief for criticism of his government, and submit ministerial list to EFCC. PDP urges lawmakers. Okay. That's what you find on the front page of The Guardian. Let's move now to the Vanguard newspaper now. Vanguard is saying, why stable power supply will remain a mirage. Yeah, that's a report revealing that as power sector loses, losses rather, hit 332.4 billion naira. A lack of liquidity, inadequate investment, others bite harder. In 2017 to 2020, ERGP's 10,000 megawatt target in jeopardy. And Nigeria needs 10 trillion naira infrastructure bond. Fashola is saying this. You have all that on the front page of the Vanguard. And Nigerians will ask, does the government have what it takes or not? Okay, let's move to The Nation. The Nation newspaper is next now. Abdulsalam, Akinyemi, others. Let's reduce tension. Akirinade, Gambari, Abdullahi, DHA Spiff join forces. Okay, you find all that on the front page of the Nation newspaper. And there's another very interesting picture there of Nigerians butchering a whale at the shore of a sea in the south. Really interesting. All right, Daily Sun is the next paper we go to now. Amid summit boycott by Southern Middle Belt groups, Abdulsalami warns over rising tension, says there's anger in the land. Okay, that's what you see on the front page of the Daily Sun. All right, gentlemen, I think that's where we'll start from. The elders are coming out to speak right now. The past few months, if you have to put it that way, has been beset with a lot of comments from the north, from the south, from the southwest, south, middle belt. There has been, voices from groups, making statements that are heating up the polity one way or the other. But the elders are coming out now to say, no, let's be cautious of all of this. How timely will this be, or how overdue is this? Charles, let me start with you.
Well, it's very fortunate that a country that should be, by now we should have put all this behind us.
Exactly. Basking in
we should even be thinking of putting men in the moon, or going to Pluto, if you will. But we're still talking about some things that are besetting, taking us behind. But how did they get here? I mean, it's an accumulation of anger in the land. I mean, and you now find a huge trust deficit in the system. And it started building up in when some of us were not born yet, in the 1960s, something during the war, when we understand that a crop of soldiers from a section of the country staged a coup, killed officers of the officers and the politicians of a certain section of the country. Then there was a reprisal attack going on. Then we came back again to 1992 when some very brilliant military officers perished in a plane crash, and they were told that they were all gathered together there from a certain section. So all these things have been built up. Exactly. Accumulation. So that's what has caused this trust deficit in the system. That again, even when it also comes to government appointment, we also do not follow the due process in most cases.
Or the federal character principle.
Federal character, which was caused, it was to step some of those things. But over time, this has been building up, and it has come to a stage where the elders are now seeing that. If look at Abdulsalam, for instance. Okay, over time, when it's going to be election year, he comes, everybody will respect him. They do a peace part and all that. But look, for the very first time, a meeting that he called, the people they shunned the meeting because of this increase in the trust deficit, as I said earlier. So for us to be able to move from this point to the next one, I think we need to look for how to get into this national reconciliation.
Okay.
Honestly.
Cyril, I wonder why it is being more difficult to bring all of these parts of Nigeria to think like Rwanda, where Rwanda has abolished the issue of tribe, the Tutsi. Yes. You are a Rwandan, and that is what should count. Nobody cares whether you are indigenous of the north or south or east or west, as the case may be. We've been together for almost 60 years now, and we have come to stay one way or the other, but we're still having this issue of you there, us against them.
You know, Mike, yesterday actually marked the 53rd anniversary of the counter-coup of 1966, after Iran's had been in power for only 200 days. The reality is that we're in a country where a section, or one section feels that it has an axe to grind with the other. And like a friend actually told me, so I think on Saturday, he said, until we go back to 1966, we will not heal. And for me, I think that we need honest leadership. Mike, without mincing words, the intervention, such a broad-based intervention.
But if you talk about the issue of going back to 1966, every part of this country, one way or the other, feels offended.
That's what I'm saying exactly.
So the point there is
everybody feels he has an axe to grind with the other, and if you trace it back, the remote causes can be taken back to that time. The fact is that we've always had these fault lines, but mind you, when the Southwest pioneered free education in 55, I think, and brought back television, the first television in Africa, when Awolowo brought WNTV, there was no TV station in France. The East brought their own TV and said second to none. Some years later, the North also followed. There was healthy competition. Yes. There was but it was healthy.
Very healthy.
Very healthy. So between 1960 and 66 was the best time Nigeria ever had.
So the first coup came, the second coup came. There is a foundation problem. What I'm telling you is that this intervention shouldn't come by Abuba. It should come from the government. The reality is that even the put-out panel, what came out of it? Yeah. And then today you have a situation where the commentariat, the preponderance of public opinion is that the government is not doing enough to draw people together in a centripetal way. And the issue is that a problem that is allowed to fester and to burn, if you go to Uniben, go to Uniport, go to UI, go to Nsukka, go to all the thriving faculties of social sciences in the country, you will see the same problems and the same solutions. 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So it is not, Babangida set up the political bureau of 1986, okay? Dr. Kuki. Yes. There were things that were suggested that he took a number of them. Mamsa was one of them. All right. Mamsa was uniting Nigerians at a point.
And he did. Mamsa did a wonderful job under Professor Jerry Ghana. Exactly.
In my hometown.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The point is, we don't have all the time, but Charles, I just want you to comment.
Okay, well, one other thing is that you made allusion to Rwanda. What did Rwanda do? Can we go there, copy and paste?
You need a leader. You need a leader.
No, that's what I'm saying.
You need a strong man.
Yes, but you see, what did the man do? When he said that the dichotomy, the ethnic dichotomy, would pay little significance, he actually moved, and then everything he did by appointment were irrespective of where he came from. So he was able to do that. When people saw that the man gave everybody the right to belong, people began to see themselves Rwanda. But if you don't give me the right to belong as a
Nigerian, you need a strong man. Look, Mike, in Nigeria is a collection of so many nations. Do we have that kind of a unified strong man?
Most of us are more Edo than Nigerians.
Oh, yeah.
But it shouldn't be like that. We should be more Nigerian than being Edo or being Okeka.
we have to leave it here.
There is nothing,
we have to leave it here.
nothing good leadership cannot achieve.
Yes.
Achebe said in 1982, he said, the problem with Nigeria is simply or squarely a failure of leadership.
Yes.
A man has to arise at some point that sees himself as and wants to pay the ultimate price.
Exactly.
I agree. I totally agree. We remember Jerry Rawlings of Ghana, you know, and all of that. We need that kind of a man who should be nationalistic.
That's right.
Thank you very much, Charles Ideho, for coming on the program. Cyril Abaku, thank you. Thank you. Right.
In the papers this morning, many stories are competing for attention. We'll just glide through many of them. I'm not doing this alone. In the studio with me is journalist Charles Ideho and TVC News senior researcher Cyril Abaku. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Kemi.
Welcome. Good to see you. All right, let's head straight in. Beginning with News Direct, and the big story there reads, Nigeria needs 10 trillion naira infrastructure bonds to curb deficits. That's from Minister nominee Fashola during his screening yesterday. Daily Trust reads, as the lead story, State of the Nation, voices of reason drowning rapidly. Abdulsalam warns Gambari, Agwai, Akinyemi, others suggest way out at that peace summit. Blueprint is next. Abdulsalam Abubakar warns tension building up in the land, wants problems identified, solutions proffered, break up not the way out. That's from ex-United Nations scribe Gambari. All right, we're seeing that. For The Guardian, the big story there is senators flay the Buhari government over unfinished projects, early jobs unrealistic. That's from Fashola, who seeks a 10 trillion naira infrastructure loan. Another nominee, Rauf Aregbesola, is quoted there blaming ignorance, mischief for the government, his government being criticized, and submits ministerial list to EFCC. PDP urges lawmakers. Let's go to the Vanguard, where the paper is leading with a report on why stable power supply will remain a mirage as power sector losses hit 332.4 billion naira. Lack of liquidity, inadequate investment, others bite harder. With the 2017 to 2020, the economic recovery and growth plans, 10,000 megawatts target in jeopardy. For The Nation, still on the peace summit, Abdulsalam, Akinyemi, others saying loudly, let's reduce tension. Akinri Adegambari, Abdullahi Diete Spaif join forces. Finally, Daily Sun, still on the summit. Amid summit boycotts by Southern Middle Belt groups, Abdulsalam warns of the rising tension in the land, says there is anger. Gentlemen, you're welcome once again.
Thank you.
Let me begin with you, Charles. Talking about the absence of the Middle Belt wing now, two crucial groups not in attendance. According to them, the presence of the Cattle Breeders Association was grievous to them. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think it's the Middle Belt Forum that decided to stay away from them because of the presence of McBan. I think it wasn't well thought out because McBan are also party to the feud. McBan should also be party to the resolution. So you can't say you need you want to put a dispute aside. That people who are party to that dispute, you say they should come to the table. So I think they should have thought it that way. But you should have offered the opportunity for them to be everybody you state your own side, so that those who are coming there to preside over the whole thing, to see as arbiter, will now look at it from all angles. But I don't think it was well thought out for them to have stayed away because of the presence of McBan. That's the way
Cyril,
I see
what's your position?
What I think is that a proper conflict resolution mechanism should have been layered in a way that there should have been background consultations to understand the psychology of the groups that are about to be called together, and so that dissonances of this kind shouldn't have come to the fore the way they have come. There should have been consultations behind the scenes to know how people will feel being brought together with all these groups.
Because in the Middle Belt, or for the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum, they said they had even gone as far as buying air tickets and concluded preparations only for them to realize
The fact is that where you have an Ohanaeze, you have a Feni Ferry, you have Arewa, these are, so to say, elevated platforms, as opposed to where you want to get them to sit with
an association
of businessmen. We should come to, because, and you know, now there are two things here. These are elders. These are elders who are father figures to the country, whether I like it or not. And so if as a nation we have even lost the moral authority for the Arewa leaders to be able to get the Magban together to talk to them, something has fundamentally even gone even worse.
And even the role of the Peace Commission, Charles, what's it for you? Are they coming late to the party, so to speak? How much of an intervention have these are people who have proved their names in the history of Nigeria. I mean, history will not be complete.
Well, late, yes, late, no. There's a yes, there's a no. Right. The yes, late is that we are saying they ought to have spoken out before now, but they didn't speak out before now. But now they're speaking out. It's also late. So there's always a time for us to arrest a drift. Okay, because the country right now we have not disintegrated. So there's still time for us to look at all these feelings, look at all these grievances for all over Nigeria, and see how we'll be able to let us ventilate. We are ventilating. So as we are ventilating, we should be able to call each other together. So, okay, what are the causes of this ventilation you are having in all these areas across Nigeria? We bring it to the table. But as I was still talking about this, I still believe that Magban being called to the table was well thought out, because they are at the heart of this crisis about herdsmen, farmers, clashes everywhere, the activities of this flooding herdsmen over here. They are at the heart of it. So I still feel that they are being called to the table is very, very, very important.
And because Charles, I wish we had also invited Southern Farmers Forum, for instance.
Absolutely.
But we didn't do that. That's why I say, if
there's no way you can do that, because they are being represented by this one. They are all
no, they are not.
That's what I think. That's what I look at.
Right.
Because
there is
because there is no clear court. There's no clear organization called Southern Farmers.
And that's the problem.
There's not.
You could have brought them together. Listen,
there's not.
This is the problem. The manner in which the leaders of Afeni Ferry, Ohanaeze and so on, Abdulsalam and so on, will be able to come together from both north and south. I do not even think that the upcoming generation has such strong ties across the Niger.
With this?
Yes, or even between the north and the south, and that's the problem. I think that this is an opportunity we shouldn't miss. The Peace Committee should go back and look at it, and look at the issues on the table once again, and see how they can make it. Since government has given up the initiative, let them, get back to the table and see how they can bring up a more lasting and holistic solution to the problem.
So many recommendations, gentlemen, so many recommendations, top of which now we could take them, piecemeal, return to the confab report. Do you see that likely? Do you see that solving what's on ground?
There have been so many confab reports. Which of them are we going to look at?
2014, of course, Charles.
But the 2014, for instance, at least to me, I think there are so many salient issues there that could address even the imbalance in our system. There are so many things, points in that report. If we holistically take a look at it, that can move on from this point A to point B. But again, because of the policies that was there in the very beginning, remember in 2014 that this current president, he said he never believed in it. Even when he took over, he said he never believed in it. That is why the thing is kept. That is why the thing is kept in abeyance. But I think if we must move ahead, and if the people are saying we must revisit that report, we should we may not implement it wholesale, but there are areas there that can actually help us to move from this point to the next point.
And that report has taken a position also on the issue of state policing or regional policing, so to speak. Cyril, what do you think? Where do we go from here?
The question of security, I do not believe, and I say it again, I do not believe that we are ripe enough for state police.
Regional?
No.
Regional, state, whatever.
We are not. We tried it in 1989. It failed woefully. So it's not. It's not as if it's something it's one silver bullet that we must bring to the table. It can be implemented.
So you
but
say
perhaps I think we should mature a little bit more.
We enhance our federal structure then.
No, but I think what I think I tend to agree with him that we're not right for state police. I used to think state police will bring about the panacea to a problem. You see why? Because there's this deep-seated animosity amongst all who are Nigerians. And I just talked about the trust deficit before, in the last session. Because, for instance, if you say, okay, the Southwest, Ibadan, your state, they should have their own police. Then there's a Fulani man who has committed the offense over there. How do you think they're going to treat him? Do you understand? So the man may not get justice. Or an Igbo man who is caught in Zamfara, for instance. Are you saying he's going to get justice?
Realities.
So these are because of the deep-seated animosity amongst us, except we had to first of all call for national healing. If we call for national healing and they were able to heal us and begin to, the centrifugal forces tending to remove from the center, we now bring the let all this now bring us in. If we now have a say in the center, we have a pull to the center, we now have a central focal point. Without that, I don't think
I still
going to work.
Where we go from here, because these are hurting bodies who have come. Look at an Afenifere, for example, that have, making his position clear with demands that a particular section should leave its domain, or else it will do this
Which is what I'm saying,
and that. And then you're bringing all these people to a peace summit. What was achieved yesterday?
This is the issue. This is the issue. In 76, I think, Murtala Muhammad told the Constituent Assembly to infuse what he called federal character, believing that, if merit was given was laxed a little bit, and then we had a system where everybody had equal opportunity to partake in the center, it would help to foster a sense of belonging. It has not achieved it. You know why? Because you cannot decree unity. You cannot impose it. What you do is to have a policy in the similitude of what can lead to social mobilization of Nigerians towards a common goal. Now, the fact is that there is a lot of pressure. Today is President Buhari, tomorrow is the police. There is a lot of pressure on the center. The policy we need is a policy that will gradually make us believe in ourselves as a people. We believe in ourselves as people who are part of Nigeria, not as Nigerians.
Right.
We need a policy that can help, that Nigerians can own.
Okay.
And live out by themselves.
And this is not about anybody now. Charles, what will be your final take on this to enhance unity in the country?
Okay, I think first of all, we know we have problems. We've got issues here and there. But can we don't even call it national conference. Give it another nomenclature. Can we just take advantage of it? Let's also come. All this, let's ventilate our feelings, let's ventilate our emotions, let's tell each other all these problems we have amongst ourselves. Let's bring them to the table and see how we're able to look at and then bring, as we do that, then we move forward. No, it might happen if all of us agree that we want to move forward and say, as all of us are Nigerians, not just towards, gravitating towards our regional blocks and all that.
All right.
It's not going to work.
Gentlemen, Charles Ideho, Cyril Abaku, thank you both.
Thank you
very much, Theophilus. Let's head into the papers now, see what the papers are saying. A lot of interesting headlines here and there. And I have with me Charles Ideho in the studio, as well as Cyril Abaku. Gentlemen, good morning.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you. Now, let's begin with the News Direct this morning. The Nigerian News Direct is where we start from. Nigeria needs 10 trillion naira infrastructure bond to curb deficit. Fashola was revealing this yesterday when he was being screened as a ministerial nominee, and I think we'll talk about this shortly. From the News Direct, let's go to the Daily Trust. State of the Nation, Voices of Reason drowning rapidly. Abdulsalam Abubakar warns, and Gambari, Agwai, Akinyemi, others suggest way out. You'll find this on the front page of the Daily Trust. From there, let's go to the Blueprint now. Abdulsalam Abubakar warns tension building up in the land. Warns problems identified, solutions proffered, and break up, not way out. Ex-UN scribe Gambari is saying this. All right. From the Blueprint, let's go to the Guardian. Senators flay Buhari government over unfinished projects. And it has some multiple riders there explaining further. Said early jobs unrealistic, says Fashola seeks 10 trillion naira infrastructure loan. And Arik Wushala blames ignorance, mischief for criticism of his government and submit ministerial list to EFCC. PDP urges lawmakers. You find all that on the front page of the Guardian. Let's go to the Vanguard now. Why stable power supply will remain a mirage. There's a report explaining this as power sector losses hit 332.4 billion naira. The lack of liquidity, inadequate investment, others bite harder. In 2017 to 2020, ERGP's 10,000 megawatt target in jeopardy, and Nigeria needs 10 trillion naira infrastructure bond. Fashola is saying this. Okay. From the Vanguard, let's go to the Nation newspaper now. Abdulsalam, Akinyemi, others. Let's reduce tension. Kirinade, Gambari, Abdullahi, Dietive Spief join forces on this. And the elders are speaking to Nigerians now, drawing attention to some of the unguarded statements and comments from different groups across the country. From the Nation, let's go now to the Daily Sun. The Daily Sun is the last one we'll be looking at right now. Amid summit boycotts by Southern Middle Belt groups, Abdulsalam warns over rising tension. It says there's anger in the land. Okay. Certainly there seems to be some tension here and there, but certainly how to handle them are issues that everyone's looking forward to. Gentlemen, let's go to this the story on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct, where a former Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, made the comment saying that Nigeria needs 10 trillion naira infrastructure bond to curb the deficit. We have deficit. Nigeria has deficit in roads, deficit in housing, deficit in power, deficit in so many, in fact, deficit in almost all aspects of endeavor. $10 trillion, 10 trillion naira. How far would that go? Cyril, let me start with you now.
Well, I think the word infrastructure is even, like you rightly pointed out, is even a very broad and vague term. So first of all, we need to sit down and say, what is the priority infrastructure? What is the critical infrastructure? If you ask me, of course, power. Because without power, you can't do anything. The Chinese told themselves in 1949, they said, we need power to power our development. Today, we see where they are, 49 years.
That's why it's called power.
Yes.
Or that's why it's called energy.
Energy. So we can begin from there. But again, how do we take corruption out of it? Because the fact is that 10 trillion, you can't raise it in one day. It's going to take a long time. And if my gut feeling is not wrong-footing me, I think that where this will land us is even very, very basic infrastructure. It may not take us to that zenith, to that apogee where the advanced nations are as yet. So yes, he has said the truth, but how do we frankly approach it? The truth of the matter is that infrastructure in Nigeria, any minister that is in charge of infrastructure will not just have the power to minister over road construction and housing. He will also have the powers of deliverance. Mike, because you need a minister of deliverance. Infrastructure is the demon that has been the cesspit of, money keeps on, what we have voted into infrastructure.
It's like principality and power.
Yes, so you need not just you need a deliverance minister.
Maybe they'll form the Ministry of Deliverance. Okay. Now, Charles, the point when it comes to cash, when monies are mentioned, monies, and all of that, Nigerians are always very cynical and very skeptical because of their experiences. Whether government means it, whether government is ready, sometimes Nigerians don't trust government when it comes to, we need this amount of money to do this, we need this amount of money to handle that. What should really change to be able to achieve this? We see this Sukuk bond working across the length and breadth of the country. Well,
the Nigerians have a right to distrust the government because when you look at the antecedent, money is usually budgeted for things you don't get it. We're saying here before we came on air that time that I said the thing is amazing that when you make budgeted provisions for road construction, for instance, maybe from Cyril's village to the center, the capital, the money has been budgeted for. It's been captured in the budget for that budget year. But you still require the supervising ministry to still lobby for the money to be released. That's an abnormality. Even when it's released, not what's released, that is plowed back to that project. So therefore, what should we do?
Fashola was mentioning that yesterday.
Good, thank you. So what we should do is, as you mentioned, the Sukuk bond template. We could also look at the Chinese template. The Chinese will give you loan. They won't give you cash. Because when they give you cash, because they know the tendency, the proclivity to be corrupt, you start dipping your hands into it. Is there? What do you do? What do? They will give you is loan, but they bring the manpower. They bring everything that requires for them to drive that project. So that's all. If all the bomb we are looking for now, the 10 trillion, it's not small money, 10 trillion, which perhaps may last for about 5 decades.
No, I guess he's just suggesting.
No,
this.
If we told that line truly, in order for us to arrest the drift, even when we also have to ask the question, how did we arrive at this huge deficit? Once we're able to look at it and what brought us into that, once we get that bond or whatever name you may call it, let's not get the actual cash. So those who are going to be giving or whatever, maybe they can have a supervisory role for them to drive the project so that the money doesn't end up in pockets.
Does Nigeria have the kind of credit that can drive
I think
that
we
kind
do.
of bond?
I think we do. When you look at our credit rating internationally, we don't have it. But the question when it comes, usually, it is see the same bureaucracy and number two, the corruption industry that has not allowed us to actually make that inroad into where it's supposed to take us from this point to the next point.
All right, Cyril, the point there is when it comes to learning from other countries, a lot of people have at one point or the other said that we don't have to reinvent the wheel or start everything all over again. So many countries have different templates that have worked. China, even Rwanda here, and Ethiopia is doing wonderfully well when it comes to infrastructure and policies and so on. What can Nigeria learn from all of this? Even Ghana beside us here is doing so well when it comes to that too.
You know, what we can learn from me is political will. Because
that's where it starts from.
Of course. See, let me tell you something. The civil service of any nation, particularly that of Nigeria, is supposed to be a sort of university within the government.
I'm glad you said it's supposed to.
Yes, they have all the experts you would expect a government to have, a university to have. They have the intellectuals within the system. It is an open secret that many times when you bring contractors to come and take jobs, it is these same persons within the system that come to take the jobs by proxy and still execute them. So do we have the human capacity? We have it overabundantly. Do we have the resources? We have it. But you need somebody who has the will to resist the trappings of corruption.
And inspire that.
And inspire that.
All right.
That is the bane of the issue.
It's a whole lot of challenge when it comes to having someone who can inspire all of that.
Exactly.
Because it's a huge, very, very huge...
Except a benevolent dictator.